What's happening, guys? What's up? Happy Thursday. It's just after 9:30, and we're kicking it at Johnny Gaz Live. Thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight. So much good going around the Detroit sports scene. We got so much to talk about yet again. Tonight is going to be a heavy focus on our Detroit Pistons as we prepare for the playoffs. The Pistons have one more game ahead of them to determine who will be the 8th seed and who they will play starting Sunday evening as the 1 seed in these NBA playoffs. We got a lot to look forward to in NBA land in our Pistons, so we're going to go heavy Detroit Pistons tonight, but we're going to cover everything Detroit sports. We have the Tigers in a walk-off today. We're going to talk about that. Big contract for Kevin McGonigle. We're going to get into that in some heavy detail. Red Wings with an embarrassing final loss of their season. What does that mean for their offseason and everything for Hockey Town and what's ahead? We'll talk about that. And then, of course, we'll hit on our Lions who are prepping for the NFL draft. We will do a quick draft breakdown, kind of see where the Lions stand and where they will go from here. And just a reminder, we will have a special guest the night of the draft. Matt from @Don'tKnowGrit will be with me here. We will cover the first full night of the draft that Thursday, the 23rd. So definitely come back and see us. Should be a lot of fun, and we'll get to watch the draft together. That'll be great. What's up, guys? Let's see who's in the chat here. Trim Reaper's in the house. What up, Doe? How you doing, buddy? Don't Know Grit's here. We're going to see him in a couple days. Appreciate everybody for getting involved early and often. If you haven't already, slap that like button. It's the best free way to help out the stream. Share it out to your feeds. Let's get your friends and family involved. Let's talk some Detroit sports. What do you say? Happy Thursday. We were not live last Thursday, so I appreciate you guys hanging in there with me, coming back again for another round of Johnny Gaz Live on a Thursdays. We're typically live Tuesday and Thursday nights, and that is the plan throughout the spring, the summer, and as we get a little bit closer to Lions football. But right now, we are in the midst of Tiger baseball, and I think we should start right there. Why don't we do what we always do to kick it off here at Johnny Gaz Live? Let's start by going around the D. Around the D with Johnny G. Y'all know me. Let's get in the plane. Let's take off. Let's head to Comerica Park, which may not be Comerica Park for too much longer. I'll get to that here in a moment. Hang in there with me. The Tigers today were supposed to kick off their game at 1:10 p.m. There was a slight rain delay to this game in their final of 3 against the Minnesota Twins. Tigers riding a 5-game winning streak heading into this matchup with the Royals. Again, a slight rain delay before they kicked off the game. Tigers got a good performance from Cater Montero. Was good through the first 6 innings. He did try to go out for the 7th, got into a little bit of trouble, and the bullpen was not able to get them out of it. Tigers actually had a 6-1 lead at the time. They then fall behind. They go into the 9th inning, down 9-7, where there is another rain delay. And although the Tigers bats had been okay up to this point today, they had scored 6-7 runs in this matchup. They were still 2 runs shy of the Royals. Riley Green doubles, ties the game up, and then Colt Keith is the hero on a walk-off single, which scores Green. Tigers win this baseball game 10-9, a wild one at Comerica Park today, a long day at Comerica Park. Game that started at 1:10 p.m., ended, I'd say, right around 6 p.m. after all said and done. But the Tigers get the victory, and they now have a 6-game winning streak and are red hot right now. So we got to feel good about where the Tigers are at. What a victory today. Did you get to watch the game? Let me know if you had a little bit of time this afternoon to check it out. Did you see the walk-off by Colt Keith? A great finish and a great call by Jason again here. Now, I know a lot of people are struggling in finding ways to watch Tiger baseball, so I apologize if you're not able to see these games, but they have turned this thing around from what was 4-9. They had slumped. They lost 4 in a row to the Minnesota Twins, and were really at a bad spot early on this season. Things have very quickly now turned around. They've won 6 in a row. on the strength of some quality starting pitching. That was a little bit lesser today with Montero. The bullpen kind of let him down, but the Tigers' bats came alive when you needed them, and they walk it off against the Kansas City Royals. They get the sweep. They now are at 10-9. So they went from 4-9 to 10-9 very quickly. And again, a lot of it due to their pitching, but on the other side, some more timely hitting, which they were not getting in those first few series. Now we know what we've seen, what we've talked about with young Kevin McGonigle. And he's really the big story this week. Yesterday, the big news hit that the Tigers had reached an extension with the young phenom, Kevin McGonigle, an 8-year deal valued around $150 million, fully guaranteed. When all said and done, with all the incentives attached to it, it could be up to $160 million for the young shortstop third baseman. And it really signals a clear notion that McGonigle is a core central part of this team moving forward. And we might have already started to believe that through the first couple weeks of the season, but this sort of solidifies that the Tigers also believe that. And I don't know that you can find a lot of detractors to this contract. I really don't, because to me, it feels like both parties make out in the end. It is a risk for both parties, but I feel like it was a necessary risk for what they had in front of them. This long-term commitment is designed to cover the pre-arbitration, the arbitration in his early free agent years, so it takes that all out of play. It's structured with escalators and performance-based components. So again, that's how you get to that $160 million mark at some point. It includes club-friendly control years up front, followed by guaranteed prime year salary security. In simple terms, the Tigers are taking an early risk and paying for certainty later. So this is a model that a lot of other MLB teams have done. You take the volatility out of those arbitration years and secure the player through their most valuable development window. And that's obviously, it's very early on in Kevin McGonigle's development, but he's shown that he's a reliable professional hitter. And Detroit is saying essentially that they believe in McGonigle and what his trajectory will be. It's not a wait and see. They were clearly convicted in their investment, and they went for it. It is risk versus reward in a sense, because now you are hoping that McGonigle doesn't stall or doesn't hit a plateau too early. Obviously, health is a huge concern in any long-term contract, but this locks you into a heavy commitment. But the reward is exactly what any team in Major League Baseball is chasing, and that's below market production from a core bat during his peak years. And it's another signal that the Tigers' philosophy is completely shifted. And I did not expect these kind of moves when this offseason started, before this 2026 season kicked off. And then you had the Framber Valdez move, what happened with arbitration with Skubal. They go out and sign Verlander, and they made these moves, and now making a commitment to this young player so early on, instead of reacting in free agency or, trying to manufacture something, they're going to rely on their own core, their internal pieces, and they secured it early in this case. So this is a move that not only impacts the Tigers and McGonigle, it sets a precedent for how Detroit might handle future talent, how other teams might handle future young talent. And let's go back to the fact that this deal all hinges on the projection of Kevin McGonigle. The Tigers are taking a risk. If McGonigle becomes what he's looking like he could be, a middle of the bat or middle of the order type bat, an impact bat, this could be a foundational contract for them. But if for some reason his development slows, if Major League Baseball catches up to him, and obviously if there's any sort of injury, then there's your huge risk. But I love this move by the Tigers. I think it solidifies their long-term commitment, not only to McGonigle, but to what they want the core of this team to be. They've shown they're dedicated to building a strong staff. Now, we know Skubal and what will happen with him is still up in the air. But it's obvious the Tigers are doing what they can, that no matter what happens with Skubal, they want to continue to win. And it's a move like this that proves that. And obviously, this is separate from what the Tigers did today in regards to a walk-off win. McGonigle was 1 for 4, but he did score 2 runs. So finding ways to be productive, getting on base, scoring runs for this team when it matters the most. And the Tigers get a fun victory over the Royals today, having to battle back down 2 runs in the 9th, a double rain delay. And the Tigers are red hot on a 6-game winning streak, stand at 10-9. So let me know, guys, did you watch the game? What do you think of the Tigers so far? Trim says, Tigers getting it going. That's right, man. They really are. They are red hot right now. Colt Keith, McGonigle, Riley Green had a big day. Vierling had a big day. Dingler with the dinger. You know what I mean? Always good. Don't know says, before liking and subscribing to Johnny Gaz Live, Kevin McGonigle had never played an MLB game. Look at him now. Like and subscribe, and you too might just make $150 million. You never know. I mean, the correlation is there. It's scientific. You can't knock the science of that. Ball did not get suspended for his dirty play. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. I got that saved for our Pistons for sure. Let's flip the script a little bit. Let's keep going around the D. I think we should quickly jump over to our Red Wings. Not the topic. Oh, that's the wrong screen. Let's quickly jump over to our Red Wings. Not the topic we want to spend a ton of time on, but what we have to speak on is that embarrassing loss that they suffered at the hands of the Florida Panthers, who were playing a ton of their young talent. Obviously, they had a ton of injuries already going into this matchup. It's the last game of the season. I know that there isn't anything to play for. I get all that. But it was clear that one team showed up, one team did not. Todd McClellan, the head coach for the Red Wings, came out and basically said that one team was more professional and played like they wanted to win, and the other team didn't. And it was a perfect small picture of the bigger problem for this Wings team. They really had no heart towards the end of the season. This roster has no fight, and you're struggling to find where it's going to come from moving forward. Now, I'm not going to dive deep into this Red Wing situation right now. We'll save that for another live. It is its own topic. This Iser plan, what is it? Is there even a plan? We're not really sure. But the truth is there needs to be some moves made this offseason, or Hockey Town and that moniker, that nickname, it is falling off quickly, and something needs to change. So that's where I'll leave it with the Red Wings. An 8-1 loss to Florida to end the season. Wings finish at 41-31-10. And although their point production this year was better than in years past, and I know the argument was made if they were in the other conference, they'd be in the playoffs, that means nothing to me. They've had enough time, 7 years under Yzerman, 10 years now total, where they've missed the playoffs. That's enough, and they need to change this quickly. They need more scoring up front. They need a more dominant center, more depth at defense, and they need to develop some sort of grit, some sort of identity of toughness and a willingness to fight when they need to get wins. And they just don't have that right now. And losing to Florida 8-1 to end the season was just horribly depressing, very embarrassing for one of the more historic organizations in all of sports. And for that organization not to make the playoffs for 10 years in a row is just not acceptable. It's not acceptable. So we will save a bigger topic for the Red Wings for a future live. Come back and see me for that. I will throw it out there when we get to that point, but there will be a long off season of questions to be asked of this Red Wings team, the front office, the head coach, their players. Everything is up in the air now for the Red Wings in the way that they finished. Let's jump over to our Lions. And as we know, Lions now prepping for the draft. They've done what they've done in free agency. We came out and heard Brad Holmes speak for the pre-draft press conference, and we spent a ton of time talking about that press conference on our last live. What we liked about it, what we didn't like about it, the tone that he set, what the Lions' plans could be, what they might not be. And he didn't give a lot away, obviously, in that press conference. So we're still left kind of wondering, what will the Lions do at pick 17 and really those first few picks? One thing I do like to look at is the mock drafts that are out there. And obviously the big name is obviously Mel Kiper, and he came out with his final mock draft ahead of the 2026 NFL draft. And once again, it seems like Detroit is locked into a very familiar identity, and it's building through the trenches. And that's sort of been what a lot of the mock drafters will tell you. So in Kiper's final projection, it looks like he's keeping to that pattern. Offensive line remains the foundation. Edge rusher still a priority. And Brad Holmes prioritizing long-term roster sustainability over flash. So this is from Mel Kiper. He has the Lions selecting Monroe Freeling, offensive tackle out of Georgia at pick 17. Freeling is viewed as a long-term answer at tackle opposite Penei Sewell. He brings elite athletic traits and a high upside, but is still developing technically. He has limited college experience, but strong projection-based value. So this isn't necessarily a plug-and-play pick, but his traits over the polish is really what Mel is saying here. So Detroit would be betting on the ceiling over floor here, which is kind of fitting their developmental offensive line philosophy. So I could see that. We've talked about Monroe Freeling in the past, but there is a lot of other options if the play is tackled there. So let me know, chat, would you be happy with Monroe Freeling if that is the pick at pick 17? Because that's what Mel Kiper has in his latest mock draft for the Lions. Cheers, everybody. Chickadee cheers, you know? Trim says, it looks like I chose the wrong year to stop drinking. Hey, man, I got a lot of other stuff for you. You don't need that. Don't know says, if Freeling is the pick, Borum is the starter, in my opinion. So that's where the development comes into play. And I questioned that a little bit when I saw that this was Mel Kiper's mock draft, because I've said this here on this forum that I'm not a huge fan of Larry Borum as your starter. I'm fine with him as a depth piece. I'm fine with him as a spot starter. And I think I'd be fine with him in an opening day starter if the plan is to get Monroe Freeling in there somehow. Now, you'd question the pick at 17 if he's not a plug and play. So there's that side of it. But this is the only situation where I would say, okay, if Monroe Freeling is the pick and he's not exactly ready yet, then okay, we'll try Borum to start. But I need to know the plans there, you know? Trip says, I like Freeling, but I hope we jump up in draft defense, which is possible, very possible. And you're right, don't know. He may not be there at 17. That's the other part of this. But why don't we skip over to round 2? That was Mel's first round pick, and he stuck at 17. So for the Lions at round 2, pick 50, Mel went over to the edge position. Kiper projects Michigan edge Derek Moore to the Lions in that spot in round 2, pick 50. He says Moore brings explosiveness and rotational pass upside. He fits directly into Detroit's ongoing need for consistent pressure opposite Aiden Hutchinson. He also adds a local storyline, Michigan product staying in state. What would you think if this was the pick? Michigan edge Derek Moore in the second round. So in this case, Kiper goes offensive tackle round 1, defensive edge round 2. And I've seen that flip-flop, not necessarily for the same player, obviously, but flip-flop as far as position. Do the Lions go defense up front at 17 or make a move in the draft to go up or back to get their player and then go offensive line at 50? We also know, based on what Brad Holmes told us in that interview, that they don't necessarily need a tackle or an edge. So maybe neither of these Mel Kiper picks apply based on the Brad Holmes statements that were made in that pre-draft press conference. And again, we take all that with a grain of salt. But when you look at this, when you combine both of Mel Kiper's picks, the message looks to be pretty consistent. Round 1, a future franchise tackle. Round 2, edge pressure, a development piece, something you could hopefully work off of Aiden Hutchinson. And this matches what we've seen across the league as far as consensus in these mock drafts for Detroit, solving their 2 premium need positions, protecting the quarterback and then generating a reliable second pass rusher. We've talked about that here. It seems like a broken record, and to say that over and over again, it gets old. People start searching for other avenues for the Lions to take. But to me, that's still the goal here, is to fix your offensive line, protect Jared Goff, and get after the quarterback. And those are the things they couldn't do last year. So I'm okay with Mel Kiper's mock. I don't love Freeling as my number one tackle, but it might just be who's available to the Lions there. Maybe Freeling's not even available. He certainly has high upside, but the Lions need somebody I think that can come in and play. If Borum isn't the guy, and Brad told you he might be, Brad Holmes told you Larry Borum might be the guy, then you need to find your starting tackle. The Moore pick makes sense for me because it is an edge. Again, it wouldn't be the edge that I'd be seeking out, but if they did take that, if that's really what they went and did, I would be okay with these two picks. I don't know that they would have said they found an impact edge, but it's still rotational help and adds to what they added in free agency and what was already there. So I guess the question is, do you like Mel Kiper's mock draft? Would you be okay with this, or would you prefer the Lions went in a different direction? Should they trade up, let's say, to get the impact tackle or the impact defensive piece? If Bain falls down to the Lions at 17, would you take Bain? Would the Lions do that? I don't know. And so Kiper's draft just reinforces a lot of what we've seen in a ton of mock drafts. Build the trenches, offensive line, pass rusher, and now it comes down to how the board falls on draft night. And again, I just want to reiterate myself, Matt with Don't Know Grit will be live for the entire first round that Thursday, the 23rd. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. And we will see who the Lions will actually select in this NFL draft. Need some more of that rubber cement, Johnny. Yeah, baby. I'll send you that Johnny Gaz special double dip cement. I don't even know. I'll come up with a better name. I'll brand it somehow. Maybe if I ever sell merch, Trim, it'll be rubber cement. JG cement. Ooh, wow. It's getting a little rainy and stormy in upstate New York, and the big boomer just went off. Huge boomer. Wow. That was one of the louder thunders. I don't know if you guys could hear that through the stream. That was one of the louder thunders I've ever had in this area. That's crazy. Defense wins. That's right. Detroit's offense is already nasty. I want a nasty defense. I'm with you, Trim. I'm kind of there. Does that mean you're satisfied with where they're at with their offensive line? Because I guess that's really the question. Trade up for Styles. I don't think the Lions can get there, unfortunately. But I'd be fine with that. I would take Dennis Sutton over Moore. But that's just me. I'm with you. I would go with that as well. Well, I'm convinced. I need your mic because I didn't hear anything. That's good. This is the blue mic. Honestly, this is very affordable. This is not a very high-end microphone, but it works well. This was like the middle ground that I was able to get to. I can send you a link. What up, Robert? How you doing, buddy? Robert Murphy in the house. Remember the Facebook group with Johnny Gaz Sports? Appreciate you, Robert. How you doing, buddy? We were just going around the D. We're wrapping up our Lions discussion. Johnny Gaz Sports Live scratch and sniffs. I love that idea. Sports themed scratch and sniffs. You know? Boxer briefs. No, I'm just kidding. That wouldn't be one of them. Old hockey equipment. Used hockey equipment. A lot of good smells. Defense. That's right. Before we get into our main topic of the day, I actually want to spin back to the Tigers for a minute. A topic that I skipped over here, but I want to touch on for a moment. I was reading through the daily news here, and it come to find out, and maybe you guys already know this might be kind of old news, but there is a brand transition coming for Comerica Park. And since its inception, when the Tigers moved from Tiger Stadium over to Comerica Park, that's what it's always been. So there is talk that the rebrand may happen after this 2026 season. You may get kind of a soft overlap period as far as signage, media references, that kind of thing, but there's going to be a transition. The Fifth Third Bank Corp absorbed Comerica. So the Comerica brand really isn't in the future, right? So it could be Fifth Third Stadium or Fifth Third Park. No, they have not confirmed that. I guess they're going through some trials, and they're trying to brand the branding experts and a marketing team and all that stuff to figure out what is the best way to change this. There's stadium naming rights to consider, regional branch branding, digital signage, broadcast assets. There's a ton of stuff that goes into it. Local economic effects, district signaling, tourism branding, all that stuff is affected when you change the name of a major park or a major stadium. So I just thought it was interesting to see that Comerica Park might not be the case in 2027. And does that weird you guys out if it turns into Fifth Third Field? What would that mean for the Tigers? What does that mean for the fans, for the branding around the field, around the stadium? And now how often do these rebrands stick long term? So is this a sign of the times where we're now going to see all of our stadiums change a brand name over and over again? Does Little Caesars Arena become, God, I don't know, Kroger Stadium? I don't know. It's crazy. Comerica Park to me is a landmark. And it's funny because when I remember back when I first heard Comerica Park, I know there's kind of a lot of uproar because it was always Tiger Stadium. And then the branding, the licensing, all of it was kind of poured into Comerica Park, but that just became the norm for Detroiters and for the Detroit scene. And Comerica obviously being a local brand, it just made a lot of sense. So it's going to be weird for it to be called something else. So what do you guys think? What would you name Comerica Park if it can't be Comerica Park? Because again, I don't think, from what I've seen, nothing is set in stone. It's not said that it's going to be Fifth Third Field, but it could be. My boxer briefs already smell like the Red Wings play. So yeah, I just thought that's an interesting topic. We'll see. I'll keep you guys posted as the rebrand sort of becomes more reality. But let's jump over into our Pistons. Let's get into our main topic of the day. All right, guys, it's our main topic of the day. Our Detroit Pistons are preparing for their first-round matchup in this 2026 NBA playoffs. The play-in tournament is still ongoing. There is sort of an off day for the play-in games. The last two games will take place tomorrow, Friday. And the Pistons will be concerned, of course, with the Eastern Conference side of things, because on the Western Conference side, you have Golden State and Phoenix battling it out. That's the late game tomorrow. The early game will be the Charlotte Hornets and the Orlando Magic at 7:30 p.m. That's on Prime Video. So the Pistons will basically be on playoff opponent watch, and this is a lot of fun, honestly, if you're a fan. I think the Pistons, I'm sure, are having fun with this, but to be able to watch the play-in tournament in the light of the Pistons are already the number one seed. I'm comfortable with whatever team out of these teams comes out. I'd rather have not have played the Charlotte Hornets first round, but it is what it is. And if we get Charlotte, then bring them on. You know what I mean? But open with the fact that, the Pistons are set as the number one seed. Philadelphia obviously is not an option because they beat Orlando in the play-in. They locked up the number 7 seed, so they're going to go play Boston. Orlando will now face Charlotte for the final number 8 seed and the right to play Detroit in the first round. So let's talk about these two teams. Let's first focus on Orlando. They got a bigger front court of these two teams. They're more defensive-minded, kind of Pistons-oriented in that sense. They could make the game slower, a little uglier. That's what they're really trying to do. That's what they'll try to do against Charlotte. I think Detroit would feel comfortable playing Orlando because Orlando does struggle offensively at times. I think the Pistons could lock them up. Orlando finished at 45-37 this season and had lost to Philadelphia, obviously, in the play-in game. And Detroit really has the number of those two teams. Now, Charlotte on the other side, a little younger, a little faster. I think a little more dangerous of all these teams, more explosive offensively. They have the momentum going from that incredible game against the Heat. Now, you can argue a couple weird things happened in that game, but it was a great finish. The three-point shooting for Charlotte is fantastic. It makes them very dangerous in these short series. There's bad blood between these two teams. Detroit and Charlotte got into it. They did play again and were able to kind of hold things together. But that fight early on in the season involving multiple players could poke or rear out its ugly head in these playoffs. But no matter who the Pistons face, I think they should feel confident. I really do. They finished at 60-22, the best record in the Eastern Conference. They went 9-2 combined against Orlando, Charlotte, and Philly during the regular season, and they earned this number one seed. They should expect to win their round one matchup, no matter who comes at them as the 8th seed. And Detroit obviously is just resting and preparing through all this while Orlando and Charlotte battle it out in this last playing game. They can scout both teams. They'll be ready either way. The extra rest could mean a lot for these Pistons. We know they're coming in relatively healthy. Cade coming back from the lung. Isaiah Stewart coming back. So a little extra rest for those two, I'm sure, is a good thing. And I think at this point, the Pistons aren't happy just to be in the playoffs. They are the 1 seed, and they, I think, expect to win. They certainly expect to win this round one matchup. I expect them to win this round one matchup, and I expect them to make a deep run. The bigger question is, I don't think it's who they play, but whether Orlando or Charlotte can actually threaten them 4 times over 7 games. And I just don't see that. So let me know, guys, who would you rather face, Charlotte or Orlando? Again, they'll be playing tomorrow night, Friday, to determine who will be the 8th seed and face the Pistons. I believe it's a 6:30 tip-off on Sunday night, no matter who wins that game. I'm very excited. It's been a good play-in tournament so far. For me, I think I'd rather have the Pistons play Orlando. That's just the truth. Like, if you're asking me what's better for the Pistons getting through the first round, I think it's Orlando. I think it's less of a fight for them. I think the Pistons will be willing to grind it out and play those slower games, those defensive style games. I don't think they want to get into shootouts with Charlotte. I think Charlotte, out of those two teams, could get hotter, could shoot the ball, shoot their way into beating someone in the first round. So if you're asking me who I'd rather play, it would be Orlando, but I think I'd be fine facing either one of those teams. I think the Pistons want Charlotte. I think they want to just knock them out of it. I really do. I really, really do. But before we get to the playoffs, and we're going to get back into some positive and some things the Pistons should be concerned with as they make this playoff run here in a moment. But one of the big stories today was coming out that both Cade Cunningham and Luka Doncic would be eligible for NBA season awards. He's been officially ruled eligible for end-of-season awards despite falling 1 game short. This is Cade Cunningham of the 65-game threshold. I think this is absolutely the right call by the NBA. Cade only missed time because of that collapsed lung. It wasn't load management. He wasn't just not wanting to play, just sitting out. He wasn't avoiding games by any means. The spirit of this rule was always supposed to punish stars for not playing. And obviously in Cade's situation, or people who suffer serious injuries late in the season, that shouldn't apply. So Cade played in 64 games, and I thought in the games he was able to play, he's obviously changed the direction of this franchise. He was the most valuable player on his team, and the argument was he could have been the most valuable player in this league. He averaged nearly 24 points, 10 assists per game, while leading the Pistons to the top of the Eastern Conference, like we just laid out for you. One of the best seasons in Pistons history, and a lot of it is due to Cade Cunningham. 60 wins, 3rd time in their history, and Cade was the engine behind all of it. So the NBA and the Players Association agreed that Cade's situation qualified as an extraordinary circumstance, and an independent arbitrator signed off on it. And this matters because Cade was in the All-NBA conversation. He deserves to be recognized amongst his peers, amongst one of the best players in basketball for the season he just had. If the NBA had kept him off the ballot after 1 missed game for suffering a collapsed lung, it would have made that rule book look super rigid, the whole league look rigid, unfair, separated from the reality of the situation. So I think they did the right thing to look at the true reality of the situation and rule on this individually. I like that a lot. So they showed some common sense, the league did, protected the integrity of the rule, and acknowledged that there are some rare situations where this rule just shouldn't apply. So to me, it's a huge moment for the Pistons nationally because Cade is now back in the conversation for all the All-NBA honors. It's another sign that Detroit basketball is officially relevant again. And I think that may be the most important thing coming out of this. So Cade will get his just due, but I'm sure that he would take a deep run in the playoffs and certainly an NBA title over any of these season awards. I'm sure he would. But that was great news coming out of the NBA today. I was glad to see it, and good for Cade Cunningham. The system is too slow for Cade. That's right. What's up, Marcus? How you doing? It says Harden is our biggest threat. Cade has struggled against veteran guards. Cleveland's an interesting story. I don't. The idea was brought up to me today is that if Detroit gets through the first round and has to play Cleveland and they don't beat Cleveland in a 7-game series, does this make the season a failure for the Pistons? And Marcus, your point of Harden being a big threat, that team being a big threat, brought that back up in my mind because I think the Pistons still should win that series. But I do believe, Marcus, you are correct. That might give them the hardest time. That might be their most difficult matchup. And then obviously assuming they might play the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals if they're able to get through that. Trim wants Charlotte. Don't know wants Charlotte. They can't bang at all. I mean, that's the thing. Like Orlando, a little bit more physical. They'd be willing to play a little bit more Piston basketball. Charlotte, you're absolutely right. A little more soft. But I just feel like the momentum that Charlotte could get going with is what scares me a little more. But I agree with you, Marcus. The Cavs scare me a little bit. I'm not there yet. Google Park Tigers. I like that. Google Park. I get down with that. Google Park. That's good. Well, why don't we do this? Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I put together kind of my biggest concerns for this Pistons team heading into the NBA playoffs. They've went on a fantastic run to clinch the number 1 seed. We talked about the 60 wins, one of the best seasons in franchise history. Cade Cunningham leading the way, coming back from the collapsed lung, everything that they were able to do with their depth, the secondary pieces, JB Bickerstaff, through that absence of Cade and their superstar, and they were still able to get it done. A very impressive run from this Pistons team, but they're not perfect. There are still issues. There are concerns heading into this playoff run that I think we need to get out ahead of and we need to talk about. So to me, there are 3 major concerns for the Pistons heading into the postseason. The first one is shooting, in particular, the 3-point shooting. We've seen this team get hot from the outside as of late, but we've also seen them go completely cold. In the playoffs, we know defenses pack the paint. They're going to take away the easy buckets and force you to win from deep. So if Detroit has a few bad shooting nights in a series, that could completely change everything. The second thing is turnovers. This Piston team, even with 60 wins, they've shown that they can turn the ball over in spurts. And they average 14.2 turnovers per game, which is one of the highest marks in the league. When Detroit's at its best, it's forcing turnovers and getting out in transition. But in the playoffs, you can't give away extra possessions. So especially on the road, turnovers could swing momentum, energize a crowd, and really cost you games. Cade Cunningham himself, now he's a playmaker. He's going to handle the ball for you. So it makes sense he has the most turnovers of the team, but he averages a high number of turnovers as well. So overall, they really need to look at that. 3.7 per game for Cade. The third concern for me is the playoff experience. We know what happened last year against the New York Knicks. It's still a very young team. And a regular season is one thing, but the playoffs are so much different. The NBA playoffs is a completely different animal. Every weakness gets attacked. Every possession is magnified. The benches get smaller. Every game becomes more physical. We know Cade can handle the spotlight, but can the rest of the roster respond when the adversity hits? Can Jalen Duren continue to be the force he's been this season? Can they get enough production from the secondary pieces to make this happen? We talked about the shooting. Duncan Robinson, Kevin Huerter. Can those guys score the basketball when Cade and Jalen Duren are taken away? So to me, those are the three biggest concerns: outside shooting, the turnovers, and then the playoff experience, which you really can't gain without going through it. If the Pistons can manage these areas, they have a real chance to make a deep run. Let me know, Pistons fans. Let me know, chat. Do you have any other concerns? Did I hit the mark with my three biggest concerns for the Pistons? I'd love to hear from you guys. Do you think any one of these concerns ultimately holds the Pistons back from getting to an NBA championship? And obviously the title of today's live is title contenders. And not only do I believe the Pistons are title contenders, I do believe they can win a championship this year. This team has shown they can beat anybody. Defensively, they are the best team in basketball. They get after it better than any team in basketball. And defense does carry. And the reason I know that is because the Pistons in their history have won NBA championships playing a very similar style of basketball. So let's take it back to 2004. The last time the Pistons won an NBA championship. We know the bad boys from 89 and 90. I'm talking about the going to work Pistons, the 04 Pistons. Let's compare the 04 Pistons to what we have now in our current Pistons. Because when you look at these two teams, the identity feels so similar. Elite defense, physicality, depth, not necessarily a true superstar carrying night over night, explosions every night. So the question is simple. Can you still win the championship with that formula, with that 04 formula, with this Pistons 26 formula? So let's go back to the 04 Pistons. What was it about them that made them so special? It wasn't offense. Certainly wasn't the offense. They were built on elite defense, discipline, structure. Larry Brown. They won a title without a traditional superstar, without an offensive engine. They had identities throughout that roster. Chauncey Billups controlling the tempo, late game execution, Mr. Big Shot, of course. Ben Wallace, the defensive anchor. Rim protection, rebounding dominance, Tayshaun Prince, perimeter stopper, versatility. Rasheed, the spacing, the interior defense, the IQ, the attitude that team needed. They beat the Lakers' star power with team defense and execution. And you remember that was Kobe and Shaq just moments away from being out of their prime. That 04 Pistons team did not outscore you. They suffocated you. Now let's flip forward to these modern Pistons. Very similar. Again, built around defense. Defensive rating 109 to 110. That's top tier in the league. They got length. They have athletic wings. They rim protect. Great at rebounding. They turnover generate all over the place, which leads to their transition offense. If there's any weaknesses to this team, it's their half-court scoring. That shooting we talked about, a heavy reliance on those defensive stops to create offense. That's how good this Pistons team is currently in defense. And they're not winning based on shot making. They're winning with disruption. That's really how I would describe it. Very similar to the 04 Pistons. So comparing these two teams, defensive first rosters, multiple switchable defenders on both of those teams, no traditional 30-point per game score, and their wins driven by the same toughness and that identity that they've created. Now, the difference is, I think, just in general, back in the NBA in 04, it was a much slower pace, less spacing, fewer three-pointers. The modern NBA, obviously, it's all about three-point volume, three-point shooting, spacing, dictating everything else. Today's offenses push defensive lapses instantly. And I think what's important is that the 04 Pistons could win games in the 80 to 90 range, where modern playoff teams typically 105 to 120 is a good defensive performance. So a different era in that case. But could a defensive first team like the 04 Pistons survive in today's era? And that's sort of why we asked the question, because that's what the modern day Pistons are trying to do. Do you need elite shot creation and shooting to win an NBA title now? Do you have to have that? That's really the question. So to me, yes, I think defense travels. Elite rim protection still wins series. I think the physicality the Pistons have can disrupt the modern timing. Turnovers in transition can offset poor shooting anytime. But can this current Pistons team generate enough half-court offense when another defense locks in? The regular season success the Pistons have doesn't necessarily always correlate to playoff sustainability. And so that's really the big question. The 04 Pistons could win ugly every night. The question is whether ugly still wins 4 rounds in the current NBA. And can this 2026 Pistons team get it done? So to me, I do believe they can get it done. Defense can absolutely still win championships, especially in the NBA. But they need to find some reliable shooting, some kind of shot creation. And can the Pistons evolve enough to survive their style in the 2026 NBA stratosphere? They've proven they can do it in the regular season. Can they get it done in the playoffs? Kind of bending the current identity of the team to make this work. It's a really fascinating watch. I can't wait to see what this Pistons team has in store for us in the playoffs. It's going to be so much fun. I'm so excited. I don't care if it's Charlotte. I don't care if it's Orlando. I say bring it on. I think the Pistons feel the same way, and it's going to be awesome. Marcus says the Cavs have the bodies to match up against Stewart and Duren as well. I agree with you there. Robert says, could this team potentially rival the going to work Pistons? We just had a good discussion on it. They have to win a title for the discussion to carry any weight. That's my opinion, Robert. That's how I feel. The going to work Pistons probably should have won 2 titles. The 05 title, they were a Big Shot Bob shot away from getting it. If Rasheed just stays on Big Shot Bob, we're talking differently. That's a whole other point. That's a Detroit sports time machine coming up down the road. But I think for me, if the Pistons, this current Pistons team wins a title, then absolutely we're talking about a comparison. But that's a big ask. That's a huge ask of this team. I think it's a breeze to the finals for these nasty boys. I hope you're right, Trim. I would love that. Herter, Duncan, Danis, all solid 3-point snipers. Absolutely. Can they get enough from a combination of those guys in each matchup, right? You can't have all 3 of them go cold, because that did happen at midway points of the season. The Pistons have it. That's right. Yeah, the mob. I forget what that guy's name was. Larry, I forget what it is. Hopefully no more of that this year. But yeah, guys, I'm excited. I think the Pistons are coming into this NBA playoff in a great position. I mean, obviously with the number 1 seed, I don't mean that, but I mean in their health factor, the coach combination with the roster, they seem to have a magical mix that not a lot of teams have. And the 04 Pistons had that and so much more. And I think we're seeing the infancy of this same kind of build. I feel like the Pistons almost are ahead of schedule. Obviously, with the number 1 seed, 60 wins, it feels like they are ahead of schedule. Does it take them to an NBA final this year? And if so, can they get it all done? Because to me, if they get there, I think, why not? If they can get there, why not? So to me, it's about the East. Can they climb through the first round? I absolutely think they can. If they get the Cavs in the second round, that's going to be a battle. And then you have the Celtics just kind of looming. And that's the scary team. To me, that's the scariest team in the Eastern Conference. The experience that Boston Celtics team will bring to the playoffs in a matchup with the Pistons, that will be a watch. Holy moly. We're going to talk about it because I think it's coming. I think we're building up towards it. I hope we get it. I really do. So again, guys, just a reminder, we have the NFL draft coming up next Thursday, the 23rd. Myself and Matt at Don't Know Grit will be live for the entire first round of the NFL draft. We will break it down for you. We'll go over the picks. We'll have some fun. And mainly, we'll focus on the Lions, pick 17. Prime time. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. So come back and see us next Thursday, the 23rd. I will also be live Tuesday next week. We'll have Tigers running through the weekend. So we'll have a lot of that going on. I'll have content each and every day at Johnny Gaz Sports on all of your social networks. If you search for at Johnny Gaz Sports, all one word, you will always find concise, reliable, free Detroit sports content. There's memberships on both the YouTube side and the Facebook side where I come out with a ton of fun content, but there's always fun, free stuff for you all the time. If you haven't already, guys, make sure to slap the like button. It would help me out so much today. If you haven't already shared the stream out, that will also do us very well. And I appreciate everybody that's been in the chat today. Big shout outs to Trim Reaper. Of course, man, you always involved. You're always on top of stuff. Always a fun chat back and forth. I appreciate you very much, buddy. Don't Know Grit in the house. Robert Murphy in the house. Member of the Facebook side. I appreciate you, buddy. Marcus Newsom was back and forth with us today. Appreciate you getting involved in our Pistons conversation, buddy. Thank you so much. A couple other fun drop-ins today as well. But I'm hoping to continue to build this Thursday routine. The more and more we do this, we'll spread the wealth with our topics, always hitting on Detroit sports and a ton of other fun stuff here. And we will continue to do that at Johnny Gaz Sports. Again, Tuesdays, Thursdays, 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. I'll be back Tuesday, Thursday next week. A lot of good stuff to look ahead to. A lot of heavy focus on the Lions next week. We'll probably do some sort of mock draft Tuesday, sort of round things up for what I would like to see and what might happen for the Lions. And then Thursday, we are live for the first night of the NFL draft. And really, that's like the tipping point for the new league year. I mean, I know it's already started, and all that stuff, but to me, the draft is like the kickoff for the new season. So I'm very excited. Johnny Gaz, I did the single best Detroit coverage in existence. I appreciate you, buddy. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you hanging around the channel and for being involved and for coming on next Thursday. I'm very excited. Thanks, Trim. All right, guys, we'll end it right there. It's been a fun night. I appreciate you all very much. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your week. Have a great Friday, great weekend ahead. Be safe. Take care of yourself and the ones around you more than anything else. Take care of your mental health. You got to do that. That's first and foremost. Whatever you got to do to take care of yourself. You can't take care of the ones around you if you're not good up here. If you need something, say something. Ask for help. Ask a friend. Reach out. Send Johnny Gaz an email or a DM. We are here for you. I appreciate you all. Have a fantastic night. I'll see y'all real soon. Bye-bye. Go Pistons.